signed a deal with Hezbollah, in which it gave it oil reserves without anything in exchange. This government promises that it will prevent a confrontation, but as we have warned, the exact opposite happened. The attacks only increased and deterrence was undermined. Unfortunately, it's further undermined, as in recent months, our enemies interpreted the call to not serve in the army as weakness to our military might. When you state that the state of Israel is collapsing, how do you think our enemies are interpreting that? Our enemies are listening to all of this, are watching all of this, and they believe that they can beat us, that through combined terror attacks from Lebanon, from Syria, from Gaza, they can beat us. This is what they believe. But now it's our watch. This is our responsibility. This is my responsibility. You already know me. I'm not reckless. I act forcefully, determinedly, and above all, I act out of responsibility. And I tell you tonight, citizens of Israel, we will win our enemies. We did it before, and we will do it this time around as well. Previous governments under my leadership brought the quietest years in terms of Israel's security. It's not what I'm saying, it's official data saying that. Similarly to the manner we foiled the underground tunnels from the Gaza Strip, similarly to what we done then, we will do it now again. We will recover the Israeli deterrence. It will take time, but we will do it. I said in the first day of the previous government, don't ruin too much, because we will be the ones that will have to fix it. So now we do. Now we're fixing it. Our enemies think that the internal divisions between us, the right moment for them to attack, and they're wrong. We are operating on all fronts, on all levels. I'm not able to elaborate on what exactly we're doing, but we're doing a whole lot. In Syria, we're acting against Iranian targets. The Assad regime already knows that the toll we've taken from them is just the beginning. If the Assad regime allows rocket firing towards Israel, they will pay a heavy price. In Lebanon, we attacked Hezbollah infrastructure and Iranian infrastructure there. We also operated in other ways that I cannot expand on it at the moment. We will not allow the establishment of a terror infrastructure of Hamas in Lebanon. As for Gaza, one night we detonated 50 tons of bombs above and underneath the ground. We foiled rocket launchers. The price the heavy price Hamas will pay in the future is well received by Hamas leadership. In the West Bank, we executed a wide, extended, expanded arrest campaign. We have foiled many terror attacks. We've seen many operations there on behalf of the security forces. Our security forces targeted dozens of terrorists. I don't want to fool you. There are still many, many alerts, but I can promise you that we will get to all the heinous terrorists who harmed us, our citizens. No one will remain free. The Temple Mount, we operated against the youngsters who are trying to break the status quo there. It is not the end of anything. We are ready, well prepared to act on all fronts. All terrorists, all those who try to harm us, we will get to them. Our fighters, our pilots, the Air Force, our officers, our commanders, across the IDF. No one should be mistaken. In the moment of truth, they are all there. Citizens of Israel, your security is our supreme goal. We are doing whatever we can to prevent a large campaign, but if we do need to act in that manner, we will. Whoever thinks otherwise is underestimating the great might of the Israeli nation, of the Israeli people. I would like to thank you, the citizens of Israel, your forceful standing. I would like to express on your behalf the sincere gratitude to the IDF, to the Mossad, to the fighters, to the officers, all those who are doing whatever it takes to make sure we all stay safe. And a few words on Defense Minister Gallant. In recent days, as well, we are working together around the clock on all fronts, facing the multiple security challenges. We did have our differences, even grave differences on some issues, but I did decide to put it all behind us. Gallant remains in his position as defense minister, and we will continue to work together for the security of the citizens of Israel. On this holiday of Passover, the holiday of freedom, of our freedom, together we stand and together we win. Happy holidays.
ערב טוב, אדוני ראש הממשלה. אני שומע משרים ובכירים בממשלה. חברים, אני שומע משרים ובכירים בממשלה שלמרות ההצהרות הפומביות והשיחות, הרפורמה מתה, זיכרונה לברכה. Ministers from the government, the judicial reform is dead. The protesters have won, and the reform, and if the reform was brought to a vote, coalition break apart. My question to you, Prime Minister, will you have a majority to pass it? Will you pass it, the judicial reform? And another question, the National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir said he's considering to break the coalition apart, the government apart. What do you think about it? We have received a clear mandate to fix the judicial system. First and foremost, to bring back the needed balance between the branches as is needed in a democratic regime. The majority of the public understands now that changes in the judicial system must. Due to this wide agreement, we need to reach consensus. This is what I want to do. And I also want to calm you all down. There will be no halachic state here. All the changes, all the legal changes will be enshrined. The human rights of the LGBTQ, of women, of everyone. We need to focus on one thing and one thing only, to reach wider consensus, wider agreements on the reform, the judicial reform, and on the second element, for wider agreements on other topics. For example,
to reach a wider consensus on topics like refusal to serve in the army, in the reserves rather. We're making great efforts. It's not lip service. If there's a genuine will, if there's if interests or desires will meet in the middle, we can succeed. Second, I do believe that Ben-Gvir was right to demand national guards. We need this domestic security, this sense of individual security. It's not just election campaign talk. This is something the state of Israel needs. But I do want to make it clear, it will not be a militia under no one. It will be a professional body under one of the existing security entities. We have 4 years to complete these tasks and others, and we will do just that. Mr. Prime Minister, I would like to use your terminology exactly a year ago. The terror lifts its head when it is sensing weakness. Does it mean that your government is weak, Mr. Prime Minister? Second, do you regret the manner, the fashion in which you sacked the defense minister, and why is he not here tonight? As for terror, I already told you. The terror wave started before my government, and we had to end it. The security situation was extremely shaky then, and we had to stop it, we had to stabilize it, and now we need to fix the current security situation. Decisions that were made damaged Israeli deterrence, and we are now operating against it, operating in Lebanon, operating in Iran, operating in Syria, in the Gaza Strip, in the West Bank. But yes, we are amidst a struggle with a very difficult, challenging inheritance we received from the previous government. No. Unfortunately, we have to fix a lot of things. And tonight this is what we're doing as well. We will win them all. It will take some time, but we will do it. Do you regret the fashion in which you sacked the defense minister? Galat and I are focusing on the security issue. I will not get into all the divisions we had, but I did decide clearly that I'm not pushing it sideways, I'm putting it behind us. He will remain in his position. Mr. Prime Minister, 71% of the public, according to a recent poll, are giving you
Well, we've just heard Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu speak at IDF headquarters in Tel Aviv. As expected, he did, in a sense, offer a defense of his government's handling of the security situation. He laid some of the blame on the previous government, on the protests by IDF reservists in recent weeks over his judicial reforms. But he did said he was taking responsibility. He reassured the public that the IDF and other security services are continuing to act in many areas. The definite headline of his remarks was that he has decided to retain Defense Minister Yoav Gallant in that post, reversing his earlier decision to dismiss Gallant. He also took some questions. The first one related to the judicial reforms, and while he did not say he was dropping it, he did speak more strongly than in the past about the need to find a compromise, proposal and wanted concessions. Still with us, Dr. Michael Oren, Ambassador Michael Oren, the former U.S. ambassador.
Classic Benjamin Netanyahu.
We'll get to an Eli Hochenberg, our anchor for Global Eye. Well, let's talk about that.
Classic. First of all, he looks good. I got to tell you, he's been looking tired lately. He looks well rested. He spoke well. He talked a lot about accepting responsibility, and he proceeded to not accept responsibility for just about anything. And that's classic Netanyahu too. The best defense is an offense, and he went on an offense pretty much against everybody, but particularly about the previous government.
Right.
No responsibility for what brought about the refusal of reservists to report to duty, what brought about the sense among many of our enemies that maybe we were more vulnerable than in the past. No responsibility about that. About Gallant was very interesting because there it's a lesser of two evils. He could fire Gallant, who was very popular, riding high in the polls, and pay a price for that, or and then he could look strong in his own party, or he could bring Gallant back. It's better to have him in the tent, doing what he's doing, than out of the tent and doing what he's doing. And he made that decision. Either way, it's going to cost him.
Right. Eli, backtracking on Gallant. I'm not going to say backtracking on the judicial reforms, but I definitely heard a different tone from him on that, really stressing the need for a compromise, wider agreement. Also talked about meeting the reservists and perhaps meeting some of their issues. Right. Very interesting in that aspect.
Yes, a more appeasing tone in this respect, if you will, but the clock is ticking till negotiations are set